Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Author Talk with me, Gavin. Today, I am here with the Cosmic Collector.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
I just want to say I'm super excited for this episode because I don't get a lot of opportunities to chat about comics, but today I have that opportunity. So, to start, what comics have you been reading lately?
I'm a big DC guy, so I read all like the ongoing DC stuff coming out. Loving the Absolute Universe.
Okay.
Superman, especially. I'm loving. Wonder Woman's really, really good. I like Batman a lot. The main continuity titles are pretty good too, but yeah, Absolute titles are probably the highlight of every week.
Okay. Um, let's see, what have I been reading? I I just picked up East to West.
Oh, I've heard good things. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I know
I
it's Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah, I my favorite publisher is Image. And so I'm pretty used to the independent ones, and I just heard so many great things about it.
I really need to pick it up. I've been holding off on picking up the compendium. It's at my comic store, and every time I'm there, it's like calling to me, like the Green Goblin mask.
Coward. We have a new world to conquer. You make me sick.
Leave me alone, please.
It's like,
Yeah.
buy me. And I'm like, I can't. But I'm going to eventually.
Okay. And then let's see. So this episode is all about like the future of comics, publishing in comics. And I just kind of I want to hear your thoughts of where you think the future of comics will be. Will comics still be read in the future? Do you think they are the future?
I think, I mean, we've kind of seen this before because like posts like early 2000s comics were starting to kind of like die out again. Like not die out, but they were starting to slow down. And then the MCU kicked off, and that really revamped people's like interest in superheroes and superhero media. And I think that's also taken off comics since then. And it might be starting to slow down a little bit now, but I think with the DCU kicking off and the MCU about to reboot, constant animation and TV shows coming out, I think it's only going to get more and more popular now that you have both publishing companies are putting out like content that the general audiences are seeing. You also have Image and Boom, which are getting live action adaptations. Like Something is Killing the Children's getting a live action. Um, IDW got Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and Transformers. So more people are seeing these things in the general media and they're like, hey, I want to check out these characters. Let me go pick up a comic book. And I don't think that's ever going to go away completely.
Right, I agree with you. And what do you think are some new notable series that may already have just gained popularity or will soon gain popularity?
Ooh. Um, I'm reading this one right now all from Image that's really, really good. It's called Falling in Love on the Path to Hell.
Okay.
It's Gary Dugan, and it's about like a cowboy and a samurai, and they both die, and then they end up in purgatory, and it's about their journey like through purgatory to the afterlife. Um, and they're two different people from two different backgrounds, and they end up like falling in love on that journey. Um, and I think it's a pretty cool story, and I'd love to see that like adapted into something.
Yeah, one that I recently heard about is Exquisite Corpses.
Yes, it's really, really good.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that. I'm waiting for the trade paperback to come out, but I am super excited to read it. It's about like a ton of rich people who like play assassin games, right?
Essentially, so yeah, each state has like a representative, like well, not each state, but there's like the original like 13,
Okay.
and they each have representatives, and those representatives pick a killer and a weapon, and they each get a weapon and that they have to use for the tournament, and they pick a small town that they shut off from everyone, and the all it's like a tournament within this small town where they have to hunt and kill each other, and the last one standing, the country and the leader, or the I'm sorry, the leader of the state that was over that killer is now in charge of the country, and they get to. I think it's every like 4 or 5 years. So they hold that, and they're now in charge for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm so excited to
It's
read.
pretty cool. It's James Tynion, and he's literally my favorite author of all time. He's really really good. He's the one who did Something Is Killing the Children, Batman, Detective Comics, all kinds of stuff.
So, I was wondering what your thoughts on originality in comics are lately. Do you feel like we will continue to get new stories, or do you think we're going to have a problem with reusing the same characters for stories?
Um, Yes and no. I think it's when it comes to like big publishers like Marvel or DC, you're always going to have your characters that work and your storylines that work. You're always going to have your Batman versus Joker, whether you explore it a different way or not. You're always going to have it. You're always going to have your Superman versus your Lex Luthor. Your Captain America versus Red Skull. Those are always going to be there. There are always newer ways to tell those stories, and I think the human mind is so like interesting because we've had over 100 years of comic book continuity, and people are still coming up with new ways to tell new stories with the same old characters. And I think that's where indie comics come in and play a big role because you're not like tied down to, oh, I have to use these superheroes. Like I can just make this story, and it's always like super original stuff. So no, I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where there's nothing original ever. Obviously, things are going to get reused all the time and plot
Right.
lines and villains, but no, I think we as people are able to like really come up with unique things, especially like, certain writers and artists and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say is your favorite, I guess, kind of archetype? Like, we have the hero comics and like the superhero. And then now we're branching out with more different types of genres getting turned into comics. What would you say is your favorite?
I mean, superheroes. I grew up on superheroes. It's what I mostly read. I do love a good like indie comic, but yeah, it's mostly just DC superheroes. It's usually what I revolve around.
Yeah, you got to stick with the classics.
Yeah.
All right. And then how do you feel about celebrities writing comics? For example, we have some from Kid Cudi, or we just got Post Malone's new comic.
I think it's one of those things. It's a way to express. It's an art. It's a way to express yourself and your stories. And if you have a story you want to tell it. And if it's some people enjoy it, some people won't. But it comes down to you have a story you want to tell, and you want to turn it into something, and that something is a comic book, and go for it. I've read I think the first issue of Moon Man. I haven't read Post Malone's.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who Nicole Maines is. She played Dreamer on Supergirl in CW.
Oh, okay.
She's a comic writer as well. She like dove into comics, and she's writing Secret Six. She's written some Dreamer stuff. She actually transitioned Dreamer from live action into comics, and she's writing all of her appearances. So there's cases where like it really helps the industry as well. So and like when you take a celebrity and you're like, hey, this celebrity's writing a comic book, people are like, oh, I love that celebrity. They have like
Yeah.
millions and millions of followers. Let me go pick up their comic book. Wow, comic books are cool. Let me pick up another comic book. So I
Yeah.
think it can really help the industry.
Did you enjoy Moon Man?
I read the first issue when it came out. That was a long time. I remember I picked up like the first six. I just never. I'm probably gonna pick up the trades and read all the way through.
Yeah, because I have the trade, and I feel like Kid Cudi is a great writer. Like the Intergalactic on Netflix was good, but I feel like Moon Man was just not what I was expecting. I mean,
Okay,
he definitely writes weird stuff, but this kind of, I feel like it didn't know where it was going.
I'll have to pick it up and read it all the way through because I have heard mixed opinions on it.
Yeah. And so obviously a big part of the future in general is AI. How do you
Yeah.
think AI will be interpreted into writing or making comics? Or do you think it will become a problem?
I mean, I think it's already becoming a problem, but I think you can kind of tell like when it comes to like AI imaging, like it's hard to tell, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think with like writing, it's a little bit harder. I mean, it's a little bit easier to tell
Yeah.
because especially if you don't like edit it or go in and like fix it up and stuff like that, like you can kind of tell it's not a person writing this thing.
Mhm.
But no, I think it is going to continue to be a problem, especially in the art space. Because I mean, we had that artist, I don't remember his name, that came out recently and said he used AI for some covers, and then people were like, going at him, which is fair. Like, if
Right.
you're going to be an artist, be an artist. Um, I have no problem with AI. I think it's cool. I think you can do some really cool stuff with it. And if you're
Yeah,
just sitting in your room making fun little AI combinations of characters on your phone, like there's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't pawn it off as my own art, you know? That's where it gets kind of sketchy.
exactly. And I don't know how many books you read, like just books, not
Mhm.
comics, but there's an author, Brandon Sanderson, and he made a video explaining how you can use AI to make things and you can be creative with AI, but you can't refer to yourself as an artist if you're using AI. But what you could do is refer to yourself as an art director.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you're putting in the prompt, especially if you're doing because I've seen some AI prompts that are paragraphs.
Yeah.
So like you could go that way. I wouldn't pawn it off as your own art. That's where you get into the territory of, you're using it for a dangerous means, especially if you're making money off of it.
So do you feel like, because surely a lot of independent comic creators who maybe don't even work with, a well-known publisher, those are the people who are using AI right now. Do you think it is ruining their comics and making them less creative?
Um, I really can't really speak on like ruining their comics because again, it's their own art, you know. As
Right.
long as they're not like, I have no problem with people using AI to create their own comics, as long as you're not saying, "Hey, this is my art that I drew," and
Yeah.
then using that AI art to make money. That's where it gets kind of in a sketchy territory. Because it's true, like some people just don't have. I'm one of them. I have no artistic ability whatsoever. I'm writing a comic right now. I love to write, but I reached out and I found an artist, which is still an option as well. Um, but no, when I was coming up with like I have another comic that I was working on. I was coming up for concept arts, and um, I didn't like directly go, "Hey AI, give me a concept art," but I was like, "What would a character like this look like?" And it gave me like eight different things, and I was like, I like the shoulder pads on this one. I like the boots on
Yeah.
this one, and I kind of like envisioned what I thought it might look like, and then I kind of worked my own original design into it with
Yeah.
the artist that I was working with. So it's can have some really good uses as long as you're not using it dangerously.
That's what I did because I had a period of time where I was also into writing comics like heavily. And what I would do is, it has like however many picture making uses a day. I would put slightly different descriptions in for, whatever character I was referring to. And, it would make all these different ones. And like you said, I would take different aspects from each one and whatever I liked about it, I would draw into the character. And I feel like that really helped me, especially as, like you said, someone who's not good at art, because it gives you reference on, what things need to look like.
Yeah, like from putting what you're seeing in your head onto a visual medium. That way you can kind of work out what you want things to look like. Because when I try to draw it out, it's just like that's a stick figure. That's that's a stick figure.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Is there anything that like you really wanted to talk about when it comes to the future of comics?
Um, I mean, I always just like to reiterate, like as if they're near you, go support your local comic shops.
Okay.
Not every single one, but lots of comic book shops are struggling because not everyone's picking up comics in every area of the country. So
Right.
trades and omnis, I personally order them online. But if you want some single issues, go to your local comic shop. I'm sure they got a back issue area. You can pick up a bunch of series there. Support them because we want them to stick around.
Yeah. And do you think manga helps branch the comic industry a bit, or do you think
Um,
it brings it down at all?
I'm not really sure. I don't really, I'm not huge into anime or manga, so I'm not sure like the impacts it has. But I have a lot of friends in the comic space who are also really into manga and anime. So I'm sure there is some like bridge there that kind of
Right.
overlaps. So I'm sure it helps. They're both a visual medium of reading. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I think reading manga or, I think a lot of people actually start out with manga because they're bigger books and they seem more like just normal books. and then they branch into American comics.
Mhm.
And I do definitely think, personally, I think that it helps people, read comics.
Yeah,
So, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
I don't think so. Go see Superman in theaters.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that actually brings up another thing. Do you think that, like, for example, you spoke about something is killing the children. Do you think, like, for the independent comics, do you think they'll have as faithful as adaptations, like, compared to Marvel or DC ones?
I think they will have more faithful adaptations because usually when big studios get a hold of big IPs like Marvel or DC, like Warner Brothers with DC and Disney with Marvel, they do stay faithful if you have the right person in charge. But sometimes like it is just about making money, and you can see that in a lot of movies. Like you can see where it's just, hey, I wanted to make some money here. Screw the source material. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It's just you can tell. I think with the indie comics, especially with like something that's killing the children getting a live action adaptation. James Tynion, the guy who wrote the comic, he's in the writing room. He's there, and I think they're going to continue to do that. I think Witches is getting an adaptation. That's an Image comic by Scott Snyder, and I'm pretty sure again Scott Snyder's in the writing room. He's
Yeah.
they're consulting him and stuff like that. And I think that's another reason the DCU is going to be so successful because they have comic book writers coming to the sets, being in the writing rooms, helping talk about the comics and tell these writers about the things that have happened in the comics to keep it faithful. And I think that's important. Is you don't have to necessarily copy the source material one to one, but you need to have faithful adaptations of the source material that don't disrespect the art that someone created.
Do you prefer, like, just as faithful as possible to where it's like nearly the same thing, or do you like slight or subtle changes?
Either or. I think a direct one to one is tough because a comic book is never going to like adapt one to one
Yeah.
to a live action. But I'm also okay with them taking a story and adapting it in a different way, as
Yeah.
long as it's still engaging. Um, I guess a good example would be like a bad example would be like Thor: Love and Thunder. While I do enjoy the movie, that's a bad
Oh,
adaptation of the saga of the God Butcher. It's just I've read the comic and it's a bad adaptation of it. They tried to do something different and it didn't really work for that story. But a good adaptation, in my opinion, would be Civil War. I think
oh,
that it's completely different from the comics. Besides the fact that they're at war because of this Registration Act, it's completely different and I think it's amazing. So I think you can adapt something differently and still make it good as long as you have the right characters, the right plot, good writing, etc.
all right. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on the
Yeah.
show.
Thank you
I'll
for
make
having me. It was a good
I'll
time.
make sure to link your YouTube and your TikTok all in the description. So make sure to go follow the Cosmic Collector.
Sweet. Thank you so much.